Welcome back to the show. Let's talk to the Major, Jeremy Lyon, a consultant at Hobart Capital. Morning to you, Jeremy.
Good morning.
And our very own political commentator, Rob Double. Morning to you, Rob. Let's kick off with you, young Rob. Headline in the Evening Standard overnight, some 51% say that basically Theresa May should not stand in the next general election. 9% of this think tank suggested that she should quit immediately. And this was a monthly survey of members by Conservative Home. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Conservative Home is obviously the hub of political conservative thought and ideology, so it's a hub for Conservative supporters. I wouldn't say that's particularly surprising, though. I think it's widely known that MPs, the Conservative Party, are very sceptical about the concept of Theresa May fighting another election simply because her greatest example of her performance, which was the last election, her strategy, her manner, her image was completely off. I mean, that was a campaign run effectively around her in a very presidential style. Theresa May for Britain, effectively, rather than the Conservatives for Britain. And the public fundamentally rejected that message over Jeremy Corbyn, purely in the sense that she lost her majority. So I wouldn't say this is unsurprising for a leader who lost a majority that they had in an election to have their base being concerned about the prospect of them fighting another election.
So, Jeremy, we could talk about geopolitical risks, we could talk about North Korea, we could talk about Mr. Trump, we could talk about stock market corrections, we could talk about housing collapses, but you've chosen to talk about ETFs this morning.
Well, ETFs.
What's caught your attention?
Well, ETFs is an exchange-traded funds, which have been building up very, very fast over the last 3 to 4 years, but particularly the last 2 years, where cheap money has been one of the basics, and people have been finding yield mainly on equities rather than bonds, which are very low. And there was an interesting statement by Mr. Vanguard only yesterday, saying that they can't see that the influence of an exchange-traded fund is going to cause a bubble. Well, for that to come from the horse's mouth,
yep.
To me was a bit empty and suggesting that, it's perfectly all right. Whereas mainly because the amount of money flowing into these ETFs is influencing the market in a big way.
Yep.
And I'm scared that if they turn round
and become sellers,
who's going to be the buyer?
Yep. Okay, that's very worrying then. Rob, give me a final thought. Give me a thought of the day.
End of the pay freeze or pay freeze cap. Theresa May and the government have signalled that workers who have had pay rises of 1% for 7 years will have the cap removed. They're acknowledging, Downing Street is acknowledging that the struggle of public sector workers has been too great and the inability of retaining a lot of workers has...
This is Theresa becoming human.
This is Theresa May becoming human. This is Theresa May also showing that she wants to be a leader in the long term. She has a domestic policy. She's interested and concerned about issues to do with social justice, etc., etc. So it's not just about Brexit and it's not just about the short term.
The Major, Jeremy, last thoughts?
Last thoughts, well, we're still in holiday mode. And now we're going into the real crux of Brexit starting next week with the House of Commons opening up. And it'll be interesting how nasty people can be.
Thank you very much, gents.